a lot of this water that's on Earth is older than Earth because it's coming from meteors. So the water is literally older than the Earth itself. And we know that the Earth is extremely old, right? Millions of years old. So that's something to consider too, that water, it corresponds, right? As above, so below. These cycles are kind of rebirth. They're reincarnation. It speaks to life and death. And then, evaporating up into the heavens and then coming back down and gathering all these salts and minerals, right? Moving through life's trials and tribulations. And there's just a lot. There's life cycle. The water cycles are very spiritual.
Yes. And like you were saying, as above, so below, we can make that correlation between the esoteric systems of reincarnation, where you have evaporation, which is symbolic to death, and going back. And like you said, these salts and these minerals that you've accumulated because they're hydrophilic, they like water, and they attract to water. Then it gets released from the water, and then the water goes back to the heavens or the celestial planes, and then it condenses. It hovers at a certain point and it condenses. And you could even connect that to like the group theory of consciousness, where you have different cloud types, or you have the animal consciousness, human consciousness, and so forth. And then precipitation, where we come back down and we are renewed into new bodies, new trials, new tribulations, new experiences. And then we all go back into the ocean.
Right. Yeah. And it's the same water as in the clouds, right? But once you become dense enough, or once enough of those molecules come together, then you descend from the heavens.
Yes, exactly.
So there's some everything you talk about with water. We're going to try to keep pointing out these esoteric kind of principles that exist within the different properties of water. And I think now it's about time probably to get into the body. Before we get into the body, though, I want to talk about the pH scale, just so we have an understanding when we're talking about pH, and just so you know at home, when you hear the word pH. It's a scale of acid to basic, like acid as in hydrochloric acid to basic as in Drano, as in like a cleaner for your house. And then right there, so that's 0 to 14. And then right there in the middle at 7 is water, right? It's neutral. And that's what water is. It's not, your standard water isn't super acidic. It's not acidic or basic. What you want to drink is water that is a little more basic. But when we're talking about this scale, and then the principle of polarity applies right there. Acid and basics are two sides to the same coin. They are total opposites because they exist on a spectrum. And if you haven't seen our episode on polarity, I highly recommend you check it out, because we talk about the misconceptions of polarity and the misconceptions of opposites. But acids and bases are opposites because you can get to one to the other without having to make any jumps, without having to make any genetic modifications. You go from one thing to the other along this scale. So that's what the pH scale is. They say that we should be drinking water that's around 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. I think the body's 7.4. So we want to drink something that's a little more basic than the body, so that way it has more bioavailability. The body's going to use it more. And because, as we know, the absorption rate is affected by
yes,
it's where it's at on the pH scale, right?
Yes, exactly. The more alkaline the water, but like you said, it's a specific range of alkalinity as well. 7.4, I think they said up to 7.9, maybe even, where it had a more optimal and ideal absorption rate. And then the temperature is also going to determine the absorption rate as well, because if it's too cool, it's going to not get absorbed as quickly or as readily. If it's warmer, it's more likely to, as long as it meets the temperature range of the body naturally. And then there are different ways that water gets transferred throughout the body as well, such as diffusion and then the aquaporine channels. And then one is slower and one is faster. And so you're going to, be looking out for pH levels. If it's more alkaline, then it's more, the absorption rate is higher. If it's more acidic, then the absorption rate is lower. It's not about actually changing the alkalinity or acidity of the body, because the pH scale in the body is around 7.4, but different organs have different pH levels, different different locations in the body have different pH levels. And then there's an overall pH level of around about 7.4. So it's not about necessarily making the body more alkaline or making the body more acidic. It's about the alkalinity of the water being able to be absorbed more readily, and then the temperature as well. And then if we're consuming the water, because of the mechanoreceptors in your bladder and your kidneys, when the organs expand, when these organs expand from drinking water, whether you're drinking it fast or slow, it's going to cause an expansion, especially if you're gulping it. And if you're causing this expansion, then your body's more likely to want to release these fluids more quickly, because it's like, oh, I'm full, it's time for me to release these fluids. Yeah. And then that's also on a scale, circadian rhythms.
Yeah, it's kind of like in equals out, right? It's just a common thing you can think of with calories too. When your body has a lot of calories, it wants to exert those calories. When your body has a lot of, or it's going to store it, right? That's what the body does. Stores it as fat if it doesn't use it. And with water, it doesn't store it. You can store water in the body, in your cells, but it's still going to flush them. The water's kind of something that can't be stagnant. It always wants to move. Animals can sense the movement of water, and they are more likely, just as a quick fact, they're more likely to drink moving water out of a toilet than stagnant water from a water bottle that's sitting in their water dish, because they have evolved to, oh, that water's sitting, I can't drink it because stagnant water is symbolic with death.
Yeah, it could have bacteria in it or something like that. They might have seen other animals, which I didn't know that, but now that you say that, I'm thinking like, well, they probably... it's a survival mechanism. We see this water sitting there. We've seen other animals historically drink it and die.
Yeah, we're not messing with it. No matter what the pH level is. I'd rather drink your toilet water than mess with that stuff.
It's not like they have a little beaker and they're like, oh, the pH is just right. Let's check the temperature. Oh, yeah, it's good.